Yeah, so I'll hold up, although this is an audio-only podcast, I'll hold up a copy for you there, Josh, on the screen. So this is White Dwarf 166 from, I think it's coming on 28, 29 years old.
Yeah.
So this was the first White Dwarf I ever got. And there was a free miniature on the front. It was a Space Marine, plastic Space Marine from Warhammer 40k, which I think this is the issue that the new edition had just come out. Don't know if you know a bit more about that than me, but
yeah, mate. Yeah, we actually played it today. We played second edition today. So
really,
yeah, I've been really into the second edition vibe at the moment, and just loving it. So yeah, probably more so now than I did back in the day.
Yeah. So when you're playing the second edition, then are you going for the sort of aesthetic that we see in these pages?
Absolutely, mate. Totally. Green,
nice
goblin green
grass,
bases,
blue skies.
and very, very bright colours. Presently I have an orc army that I'm working on at the moment, and I've got my chaos army that I painted back in around about 96, and I played it for the first time today in 25 years. So yeah, it's been a real nostalgia trip for me playing second edition again. So this harks back a lot of memories.
What a cover this was as well, like the cover of the magazine and the cover of the game, which are the same things. Like I remember as a kid drawing this or trying to draw it, and every time I did, just noticing more and more details. There's just so much going on in that cover, isn't there?
Yeah, John Blanche, I think one of his biggest strengths, I think, for John was that he could paint and illustrate these wonderful, massive battle scenes, and he did it so many times with so many other different systems as well, especially Warhammer and Man of War. Especially the Man of War rulebook has some incredible epic drawings. The epic Space Marine rulebooks, look at those, and you can see this massive scope of scale that John can portray and have this real central figure, as you can see with the Space Marine to 40k. But yeah, he was the master of all these mass scale kind of illustrations, I think.
So just opening up the magazine. So it's issue 166 from October 1993. So time of recording, we are November 2021. So this kind of is the grim darkness of the far future that we live in now, isn't it? So we're looking back to nicer times, I guess. So in the inside cover, we've got a couple of lovely photographs. So we've got a Dark Angels tactical squad and Deathwing Terminators, again, on that nice bowling green style table. And then we've got some dwarfs as well, dwarf heroes. What's that? Burlock Damonson and King Cazador, have I said that right?
He is okay. Well, hang on. King Cazador. That's right. Is it King Cazador? It's not King Cazador. It can't be.
That's what it says there. Did he get demoted or promoted? Or?
That's Crag Grim. Rune Lord Crag Grim. I think they got that wrong. Burlock Damonson is the one in the central part of the photo he's the engineer, master engineer, and the Crag Grim, the Rune Master, is the one on the far right hand of the picture. So King Cazador was another model that's not featured in this particular picture.
So the editor of this edition, Robin Dews. So we need to track Robin down and pull him up on this.
He's on Facebook, mate. You can track him down there.
We've noticed a mistake from this 28-year-old magazine. So, I'm going on to page. I don't think it's got page numbers, to be honest. I'm going on to the next page where we see a nice big newsy release for Warhammer 40,000. So we see a photo of the box set in all its glory. You see everything. It's available for them $34.99, which is quite something when you think about the prices of these games these days. So 35 quid. That wouldn't even get you a meal and a couple of pints in a pub these days. But we also see a couple of the Black Library novels. I had that Deathwing. I had that novel. Don't know what I've done with it. It'd be good to find that. But I like the Black Library stuff as well. That was a 40k novel. We've also got a wee release that's new dwarf characters, and one of these prize winning. I always liked to see these in the magazines back in the day. So it was always like a kid who'd won just hundreds of games and boxes and stuff. So you see that wee photo. He's got he's got an actual life-sized Space Wolves Terminator standing behind him. I don't know if he won that or if that was just part of the photo. And then he's sitting there, shit-eating grin, and like 400 box sets round his feet. So fair play to the wee man. Ian Carter, he was 14 at this time, so older than me. Ian will be, wonder if Ian's still kicking about out there today. Track him down as well when we're looking for Robin Jews.
I'm sure he's got a loft and he has all those boxes up there, and he's gonna post on Facebook one day and say, "Oh, look what I found at my loft." 400 box sets of all sealed, Games Workshop.
Worth about probably 50 grand now.
Yeah,
if he's not opened them.
Yeah, these are wonderful, aren't they? I mean, he's reached Mecca, this boy, and Ian, and he's got everything that we could all only have wished for back in those days, I think.
Yeah, and it was presented with his huge prize. By a Space Wolf Terminator, so he didn't get to keep the Terminator. I was going to say that's one of them where you're telling your mum that you've won this huge Terminator, and she doesn't really want that in the house because it's what you're going to do with it, hang clothes on it.
Yeah. But a great dark guard dog, though, isn't it?
Yeah, a burglar would get a bit of a fright when he broke in. Yeah, so on the next page we've got Grom. He gets a lot of chat on your podcast, doesn't he? I've heard him mentioned a few times. Big Grom, big fat goblin sitting there on his chariot. Yeah,
beautiful model. I tried to paint mine pretty much exactly the same as the studio paint job, as close as I could to honour the wonderful thing that is Grom. Even the yellow-coloured horns that wrap around the base of the chariot body and that kind of thing. It's just wonderful. It's just all gorgeous, I think. Yeah. So he does get a good mention, I think, because he's Grom, and he's the king of the goblin world. It doesn't have a price. I dare say we'll see that in the catalogue section. I'm interested to see how much Grom was going for at this point. So do you see a lot of them kicking about these days? Have you got one yourself, Josh? Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I got one.
You literally just told me that.
Yeah, I bought one way back in the day, and I had never painted it, and it was only, I don't know, since I got my army back from Australia that I actually painted it. Yeah, so I still had it unassembled and everything like back home. So yes, very lucky to have that.
How much red have you got on it?
It's all exactly the same as the one pictured in here. So the same amount of red. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I liked on your recent podcast episode, you had a bit of a discussion about the red. And yeah, I didn't know it divided opinion just as much as it must have done. What do you know? Like, what was the reason that Games Workshop wanted all the red on their models at this point?
I think talking to Dave and Thomas about it, I think it was more. I think from memory, it was kind of like a design choice or just like an art direction they focused on. It may have been that Mike McVeigh was painting these very bright primary colours during that time, and they thought they caught onto that, and everyone sort of started following Mike's cue in painting in this kind of similar sort of style. And maybe they just found red as a very visual colour and very attractive on box sets like this when they showed off miniatures on in store shops and that kind of thing. And of course it is. I think red is a very visually attractive colour, and your eye's always drawn to it. And I think it was more of a marketing kind of a art direction they wanted to go in, and everything started becoming red. So everything like wooden shafts on spears, chariot bodies like Groms, everything like the boots of the dwarves that you saw in the miners before in this issue, and everything started going red and become, like Dave said, like a parody almost. And a lot of the painters didn't really agree with that, but it was just the direction that everything went in, and it became known now, of course, as kind of the red period.
And speaking of red, on the next couple of pages, we've got a guide on how to paint your Free Space Marine, and we're going for a Blood Angel here. So nice bright red models. I always laugh, nowadays we're spoiled with things like YouTube for painting tutorials, but back in the day when you only had White Dwarf, and I laugh looking back. You've got what we've got here. We've got 4 steps to painting this Blood Angel. So it's like step 1, undercoat. Step 2, bit of red and black. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Step 3, yeah, I could get. And then step 4, it's just completely finished. And it's like, wait a minute, like, how did you jump to that? So, these tutorials weren't as easy to follow as they probably looked. Certainly for me, because I could never really paint. But then we've got some alternative options, haven't we? So we've got some of the different Space Marine colour schemes and legions. So you got any personal favourites there for the selection?
Dark Angels were a thing of mine, and Ultramarines, were chapters that I really fondly loved back in the day.
So if you had to paint like 20 Space Marines, what legion would you go for? What colour scheme would you go for?
Actually, I'm now I've gone a bit traitor, and I've gone for Space Wolves now, because I picked up a whole heap of Space Wolves recently, and I've gone traitor now, because I was a loyalist to the Dark Angels, but then I turned to the dark side and went to Space Wolves. But if I had my choice now, if someone said, okay, you can start afresh and just pick any chapter you like, I think I'd actually go for Blood Angels, and I think red is such a visually striking color on the tabletop, especially against all those sort of goblin green, flocked boards and that kind of thing. I think visually it's just a really stunning looking army. Or Ultramarines, I think that's another beautiful looking chapter. How about yourself, mate?
Don't know. I always like to look at the Legion of the Damned, and I tried to paint a couple of them when I was wee. Didn't get them anything like what we see here, but just like that flames on the armour, I think that looks really cool. Some of the legions here, are they still on the go? Like the White Scars, the Silver Skulls, the Mentor Legion, are they the Eagle Warriors as well? Do you see any of them these days?
Mate, I have no idea what's happening currently in 40k. I haven't followed it, since 2nd edition, to be really honest with you. So yeah. I have absolutely no idea. I sort of live in the 90s, mate, if you haven't noticed. So these are the archives for me, these old White Dwarves. The modern stuff, I have no idea.
So if that is the next page, I can't tell if some of these pages are stuck together. Not in a dodgy way, just because it's an old magazine.
Well, you really enjoyed Space Marines then. Okay, that's good.
I know. Just trying to get the right consistency of paint. So we've got a bit of a guide on the Space Marines here. That's some undertaking to try and tackle the background of the Space Marines. But yeah, they give us a bit of background information here. We've got a bit of info about the Dark Angels. We've got the Primarchs and everything like that. So obviously, just giving the reader a flavour for 40k, and all the sort of Marines available. The physique of a Space Marine, we've got a guide there. They've got oolitic kidneys, apparently. So there you go. They've got a Betcher's gland. Imagine going to the doctors with that. Lyman's ear. We've got one of those. Multi-lung. Christ, they're fairly... I suppose that was the thing, wasn't it? They've had loads done to them. Neuroglottis says, by chewing, tasting or smelling a substance, a Space Marine could test it for toxicity and nutritive content. That seems unnecessary, but there you go. Yeah, pretty fascinating. They've got 2 hearts and everything as well. Some boys, the Space Marines. Got a wee bit about the Primarchs as well. Got a favourite Primarch, Josh?
I'm not really sure. I think Sanguinius really sticks in my mind because of that classic artwork that Adrian Smith did with Horus and Sanguinius and the Emperor. Mm-hmm. I think, kind of iconically, it's planted in my brain from the days of Space Marine, and that was really my introduction to 40k, more so than 2nd edition. So that particular bit of artwork really stuck in my mind. Apart from that, maybe Lehman Russ. Maybe for the Space Wolves was another classic one for me. You've got a picture here that Jez did of Lehman with his 2 wolves. I think that's quite a cool, like it's like the space, Viking type guy.
Yeah.
How about yourself, mate?
Don't know. I did read some of the Horus Heresy books. So who are some of that Angron? He was some boy, big angry guy. Who was he again? He
was for the World Eaters. He's like the Khorne Yeah, if you played Epic Space Marine, you can actually play the Primarchs, which are just awesome. Yeah, the Chaos ones are so much cooler because when they turned, you had Angron, which is kind of like a demon-looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
As sort of designed as a miniature in Epic Space Marine. You had a full Grim, and you had Magnus, and what was the other one? Mortarion. Mortarion was the coolest one for Nurgle. He looked like the
Yeah,
Grim Reaper.
Death
Yeah, just
Guard.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just cool. I mean, they were so much cooler. And of course, naturally, I was attracted to Chaos as a young guy. I thought they were just absolutely hot. But yeah.
More Space Marines in the magazine. We've got some Dark Angels, Space Marine Tactical Squad there. Nice background. Again, nice blue sky, nice green grass. We've got some Ultramarines on the page after that. We've got some big old, don't know what they are, missile launchers, las cannons, heavy bolters, big heavy looking things. But not a problem for these boys to hoist above their heads, obviously. Then we're diving into some Space Wolves. Space Wolves.
Yep.
I always liked these little photo shoots, just all the scenery and terrain laid out, and trees and stuff like that. On the next page is Tech Marines, Chaplain, Servitors. They were cool, like the models for them. They're really cool. Sort of like robot. They were basically, if I remember correctly, were they not just people that had died and they turned them into robots or something and put them to work? It's a bit grim, but
I think they were grown. It looks like here their bodies are grown from human gene cells in vats of artificial nutrient. Okay, so it sounds like a pretty disgusting process, but yeah, it looks like they were just grown to serve, to be servitors, to serve and be modified genetically or enhanced with certain kinds of fittings of whatever kinds that the Tech Marines would need or whatever they needed to serve as on the battlefield. But yeah, it's quite a process, I think, to be a servitor. I don't think I'd ever want to be one. Not with the saving throw of 5 or more on a D6 in the Warhammer 40k universe. It's not going to get you far.
Would you like to have a servitor that followed you around in real life?
No, not particularly.
It would look a bit weird, wouldn't it?
It would have been,
sitting in the pub with a servitor, and you're like, go and get the pints in. He gets chucked out, gets leery.
Well, he does have a toughness of 4, which is quite a thing for
aye.
Yeah.
And again, we've got a nice pair of red tracksuit bottoms on him there. Yeah. His pal's got blue trackies on, so keep him on brand there. On to the next page, a librarian, Blood Angels librarian. That's a nice wee model, isn't it?
Yeah, very Rogue Trader actually.
Is it? Yeah. And then I like this page. We've got the stores list. These are UK stores, and then we've got some photos of games being played in the store. So check out the boy's hair, the Games Workshop boy. Look at his hair. That's like 90s hair metal.
Yeah, mate. I thought it was a woman actually, hair. But I think it's a guy. It's a guy. I thought it was a woman at first. Yeah,
but it's proper like Axl Rose style hair that he's got going on.
He's playing a great game, though. He's playing Epic Space Marine. I mean, I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, and there's all those nice cardboard skyscrapers that we've all had. Loved those, just creating a sort of big city with them. So, yeah, looks like a good game. The rest of the boys that are playing, they've got the 90s era Britpop hairdos as well, the bowl cuts. There's a young man with his Citadel starter set that I had.
Yes.
So he's getting a wee painting lesson. And then just a photo of the shop there. I've been in the shop in recent years, and it's not remotely the same as what you see now. There just seemed like there was so much more in the shop. I don't know if that's just nostalgia speaking, but there just looked like there was so much available in these old shops. Then we've got a game of 40k down the bottom. Look again, the pure enthusiasm on that member of staff there, and the kid with the England tracksuit.
Yeah, that's nice.
And look at the wee boy's Christmas jersey. See the See the boy on the left leaning over the
Yeah.
table? That's a proper, like, his mum's put that Christmas jersey on him before he went out. So,
And you're going to bloody wear that, she said, when you walked out that door. Yeah.
And the thing is, folk wear the jerseys now to I don't know if it's an ironic thing, but I've just noticed I've got a page cut out here, so I've probably missed a page.
Oh, right.
I must have cut. Is it like an illustration or something? A drawing?
After the store pages?
So, but after the librarian, the page after that, I've noticed that I've went and cut it out.
Okay, there was an illustration of a very classic, I think it was a Mark Gibbons, looks like a Blood Angel captain. So maybe you cut that out, mate, I'd say.
Probably stuck it on my wall or something, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a librarian page as well, so that was probably the back of it that you cut out. So
yeah, I must have stuck that on my wall when I was wee.
Yeah.
Going on to the next page is a game that you're right into, Josh, Man of War. We've got some North Raider boats, so you really like Man of War, don't you?
We played it again today because Paul, he really enjoys it. So I'm really happy that he likes it. So he thrashed me again with his bloody dark elves. They're just terrible to play against, but it's a lot of fun. It's a wonderful game, and we're going to play a lot more of it in the future, I think. So, have you ever played it, mate?
I've never played it. No, never played it. I was going to say, did you play it back in the day, or did you only get into it in sort of this era?
I saw it played in our games club once with two guys that had wonderfully painted fleets, and I was very interested in it, but didn't get a game until I moved to the UK, and I lived there and I worked for Games Workshop. And then one of the guys I was living with, he gave me a demo game of it. After I bought a pro-painted dwarf fleet of my store manager, and we played on the floor there, and I really enjoyed it. But for some odd reason, I don't know why, I just didn't buy the set and get into it with the guys back home.
We've got some Norse ships here. So the Norse, they got a lot more love in Man of War than they did in other games in the Warhammer world, didn't they? I suppose just because Vikings and Viking ships and that whole aesthetic. So were they one of the big forces in the game then, the Norse?
Actually, Norse are an odd one because I think they were released during the Sea of Blood expansion. The ships are very rare to find, and they're very expensive if you do find them. And the rules were covered in this particular issue of White Dwarf, and I think they were obviously covered in the Sea of Blood. So they weren't a big faction. They were just sort of an add-on faction that you could have because they introduced allies to Sea of Blood as well. So you could probably have these as an ally to one of your other factions playing in the game, or take them as an individual faction also. But I think they were very limited in what you could take. I don't think they had access to wizards or anything like that from memory, or any sort of flying creatures or whatever like the other fleets did.
You ever been tempted with that new one from Mantech, Armada, or are you just quite happy with Man of War?
I'm very it's very rare for me to be tempted by anything modern, mate, to be quite honest with you. I don't know why, but I'm quite happy just completing and painting models that I had never done or just didn't have the chance to or had the money to buy during the 90s. So yeah, it's kept me very, very busy.
Yeah, no point.
Have you at all?
No, I've never played it. No, I do. I am a fan of Mantic's rule sets in general. Not so much like their miniatures or that. Although the wee boats that they've done look pretty good. So I never know. I might check it out at some point. Just looking at the next page here, we've got a photo of the Norse longships, and we've got the high elves. So the wee high elf boats look very quaint. They look like the sort of wee yachts that you might see when you're on your holidays.
Yeah.
Lying on the beach with a beer and looking at somebody doing a bit of windsurfing.
Yeah.
So again, the Man of War aesthetic was great, wasn't it? The nice blue seas and the wee islands and the beaches and stuff.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that kind of detail. I mean, I was talking to Stuart Thomas, and he absolutely hated painting the Man of War ships, but they look absolutely beautiful. The sails and everything, yeah, just gorgeous for that kind of scale, that epic sort of scale. They're really, really beautiful paint jobs.
On the next page, we've got a wee story. We should have got Nathan from Warhammer Orchard to read that. He does a good job reading them, doesn't he?
Yeah, it'd take about an hour and a half, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll quickly give him a wee phone, see if he's up.
Yeah.
See if he could do that for us. Still more Man of War content on the next couple of pages. So we've got like a couple of sort of diagrams of the ship. So again, I've never played the game, but yeah, it's looking like different areas of the ship have different sort of damage, and you could maybe aim at bits of the ship and stuff like that. So you did a good couple of episodes on your show, Josh, where you went through the rule book. I remember it was really good.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I don't know how people responded to that. Those solo casts of me talking to myself for 30 minutes in 30-minute breaks. But yeah, I hope it. The aim was just to get people to realize what Man of War was, and to realize what a great game it was. It probably wasn't the best medium to do that. I think you need to actually show people in video and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really got super passionate about Man of War, having found a copy here in Japan, and really, really wanted to play it. But I could only do it remotely because at that stage it was COVID. COVID was well and truly around us. So I had great games played remotely through Discord at that time. So yeah, really enjoyed that a lot.
On the next page, we've got sea monsters available for Man of War. So you want to talk us through these, Josh?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Paul about those today. Actually, so I'm really looking forward. I've got a set. I've got the Beasts of the Deep, brand new in a box, all miniatures unpainted. I'm very proud of that. I don't actually want to paint the miniatures. I feel it's going to just spoil everything. But I just like having it brand new in a box. But these monsters you could purchase through Sea of Blood, Sea of Blood expansion, and then, for example, Triton was like a good aligned sea monster that was quite powerful and that could cast magic. Or you could do it so that you paid for it, and then you had these cards with the sea monsters on it, and you had them sort of blindly dealt them sort of randomly to each opponent, and then you just sort of you just took whatever you drew, which I think was a really nice idea. But yeah, these would appear and become quite painful for your opponent to deal with during the game, from what I've seen in videos. But they're just wonderful models, beautifully painted, and they really, they bring a wonderful new element to Man of War as a game.
Yeah, that Triton model's really cool. I mean, they all are, but that Triton model's amazing.
Yeah.
Promethean, the big crab, there'd be a lot of eating in that, if you caught him, if you managed to take him back to your village. Mind you, hard to preserve any seafood in those days. So you need a lot of salt, wouldn't you? But
absolutely, mate, yeah.
Open a restaurant, caught Promethean. So big old crab.
Yeah.
So on the next page, look at this. We've got a wee section on John Blanche Illuminations. So we're going into some pages of artwork here. I like that photo of him as well. John himself, he's on looks like something about Terminator 2 there. He's on his motorbike. He needs your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. So some of these drawings, yeah, look at that. We've got Space Marines. It's all the really dark gothic kind of stuff. We've got an orc there, a Space Marine monastery. But great drawings, isn't they?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a 50-50 in people's opinion about John's artwork. I mean, it was a big departure from what he did in the old Hammer days, when they were like really highly detailed, full color, illustrations. And I think these were kind of like, to some people's minds, maybe just very quick sketches with ink. But I think, for me, yeah, they hold an element of nostalgia of that time, and during John's career at Games Workshop. which he's still a part of, actually, by the way, I should say. And I think they just, they've just come out in John. He visualized 40K in a certain way that other artists didn't, and I think that really is quite evident in the sort of nature of his artwork. If you look, where is it? There's a picture of the Emperor, which, that kind of visual depiction just wasn't present in other illustrations. So John had a very particular style to his artwork that, just gave you a different kind of window to look through into the sort of his mind of what 40K meant to him. And it was a very grim, dark, awful, horrible, depressing-looking place, but and often quite beautiful, like the Adeptus Ministorum Preacher. This particular artwork I really like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of his really fine, detailed graphite kind of work.
Somebody's giving him a Chelsea smile. He's got a big scar up his cheek. Must be man of the cloth. Doesn't stop you in this era, just beating him up or cutting him up or that.
He's probably cut himself up, mate, I'd say.
Yeah, aye. Yeah. So the High Lord of Terra, that is the Emperor then?
The High Lord of Terra is the Emperor, yes.
So he's got a pipe coming out his eye with a tap on it. I wonder what the purpose of that was. An eye tap. Be interested to know the details behind his eye tap.
I don't know if that particular image is of the Emperor, but down the bottom, if you keep scrolling down or flipping past your pages, you'll see a depiction of the Emperor at the bottom there. Yeah, so the High Lord of Terra, I'm not really sure. Maybe he's kind of right in the and part of the administration, but I don't know which level. But probably high up.
Right enough. Yeah, so what I've got here, I've got a centerfold, which is the full colour cover of the 40K cover. Beautiful image this. There's just so much going on. And then, like you say, so we've got more of these wee black and white sketches. So the Emperor himself, Christ, he's had a hard paper round, as we say. He's not looking so good there. He's got sort of wee like gaskets coming out his head and steam coming out them. So that's a bad hangover. That he's got a bit of steam coming out your head.
I know how he feels.
Yeah. Well, you will, Josh. You will. A High World Renegade again. He's got good 80s hair.
Yeah.
And Space Marine Fortress. We've got a wee skeleton on a sign outside, as you do. Bit of Halloween decorations. And that Adeptus Ministorium Preacher, look at his wee mailbox beside him, wee wooden mailbox. It's just out getting his letters.
All those details that John did. For fantasy also, he did all that kind of stuff, especially the Empire, the Empire 4th edition book.
So we've got a couple of pages here on Games Day 93, which looked like a blast. So this took place Donington Park. I'm not 100% sure where that is in England, but look at the big crowd of folk coming in. They've got like banners and stuff like that. There's the Terminator again, that young Ian had in his bedroom. So the Terminator, he's got another out in there. He's got he's at Games Day now. Were you ever at Games Day? Any of the Games Days during your stint in the UK?
95. I was there, mate.
And where was that about?
Oh, mate, I don't know. I think wasn't it Birmingham? Wasn't it Birmingham they played?
They did a lot there, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, mate, I don't know exactly where it was. I have very, very little memory of that day. I was probably hungover, knowing me back in those days. But I just remember working on the trade stands. I think I didn't actually get to see any of the event. I think I was just working on the trade stands and just selling stuff. So,
you know what I always think, looking at the photos for these events, the games look utterly chaotic. Like I could barely concentrate on a game just in a room with like my opponent. But when you see these, it's like 400 people around a table and there's just dice everywhere and models everywhere and bits of paper and rules, and I'm just wondering, like, how did anyone know what was going on? Or maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just a bit chaotic. But you ever played a game in those conditions?
No, I haven't, mate. No, but there's one thing I noticed in this particular picture here, and the studio display games, which I never knew they had that. So that you could basically play using the studio terrain. So you've got Adrian Wild's river, and two. He's got the river and the two bridges sections there. You can see in that photograph, which is amazing. I had no idea that you can actually play with the studio terrain at Games Day. So that would have been the highlight for me if I could have done that. I mean, that would have been just amazing. So they're very, very lucky people to playing with the studio terrain, I think.
You know, when you look at the photo down the bottom, beside it says studio stands, and you've got a lot of kids here. You're probably talking between the age of maybe 9 and 12, maybe 13. To me, I don't know. Do you think young folk that age are still into the hobby? It seems a bit of an older hobby these days. Do you think that's a fair shout? I wonder if you see that many kids now.
Yeah. It's hard to say, mate. I don't know, because that's why I found it very strange that this era of the hobby wasn't represented more, because I thought it would have, it really captured so many people during the late 80s, early 90s. Games Workshop with HeroQuest and Space Crusade. I mean, that was their recruiting tools basically to get people into the hobby and to learn more about Games Workshop. So I would like to think that there are a lot of people still gaming from that era, or have dropped out of it for various reasons and came back to it later. So what do you think?
Don't know. I mean, like I say, because I'm not really in their shops or that, so it's hard to say. Maybe there are a lot of kids that go in. It's just that the few times I've been in, it's kind of been like the token couple of guys hanging about that are probably anywhere between sort of 22 and 32. The guys that won't even look at you when you go in, just look at the floor. Yeah. On the next page there, so more info on Games Day. So the ticket costs £5 to get in. A princely sum of £5. £5, not to be sneezed at back then, I suppose. £5, wasn't it? A small amount of money. And then we've got an heavy metal page. Neil Hodgson is Neil somebody you know, Josh?
I worked with Neil. He was the head of the design, the heavy metal team when I worked there during '95. Neil, I sat next to Neil actually during that time as well. So yeah, Neil's a nice enough guy. I didn't really have that much to do with him, personally, but he was responsible for painting a lot of the the sort of the main or key models that were represented in the White Dwarf, like all the character models and that kind of stuff. He sort of did himself, and all the other guys did most of the other rank and file type of stuff. So he was privileged with doing a lot of the nice stuff, basically.
Yeah, what a nice collection this is. So a couple of those Eldar guys, very colourful. That's a very old Hammery Chaos Warrior, isn't it? That's an old model.
Yeah.
Even for this time. It looks like he's sort of holding up a pass to get into something. It's like a vaccine passport or something.
He looks like he hasn't been vaccinated though, that's for sure, with those colours. Yeah, he's looking a bit sickly.
The Ice Queen of Kislev, that's some paint job on the white on the horse, because as everyone knows, white's a bit of a nightmare to paint, but that's come up really well.
Yeah. Especially the detail of that emblem on the horse barding. I mean, I just tried doing that recently. I just started painting a high elf mage, and I just wanted to have a go at the barding in white and that kind of thing, and doing the freehand on the barding, it's not easy. It's not easy. So I probably could have done a better job when I was a lot younger, but had better eyesight. But yeah, it's not easy.
On the next few pages, we've got some grand openings. We've got a new store in Kingston-on-Thames. We've got Bournemouth. We've got wee vouchers here for 10% off. I wonder if I took that into the shop down there. I wonder if these would still stand up.
I think I'll laugh at you, mate. I'll laugh at you. So get out of here. So
it's 10% off.
He's a time traveller.
We've got 10% off. We've got 25% off any Games Workshop or Citadel product. Not to be used with any other offer. And it's got a date on it of 9th of October 1993. So, we've got some other products for sale here. Mighty Empires, what was that? Was that something to do with Man of War, or was that something different?
Mighty Empires was...
Did you see it that we've got like a Gene Stealer, a drawn a Gene Stealer, so underneath that there's a...
Yeah, I've seen it, mate. Yeah, so Mighty Empires was a board game that was actually released during the time of 3rd edition Warhammer, and it was basically like a mass scale world kind of diplomacy battle type game. So basically it was sort of, you looked at it like a Warhammer fantasy battle game, but it's way zoomed out like by 100%, and you had all these kind of various seasons that you'd play through, and you'd conduct diplomacy between different empires, and you'd have minor or major battles depending on what happened. But then you could incorporate the battles using the 3rd edition rule set. So if you wanted to play it using 28mm models to work, to resolve a particular conflict, you could do that. Very nice looking game. I haven't had much experience playing it, but it's been one of those games that's been on my radar to pick up at some point.
On the next page, we've got the Sea of Blood expansion. We've got some info on that. So that's Man of War. They were really pushing Man of War in this era, weren't they? Mm-hmm. On the front cover, it's dwarfs against high elves. I'm always a bit sad to see that. I always think, come on, guys, get your act together. You're both goodies. There's no need to be killing each other.
These are dark elves, actually, Matthew. Sorry, these are dark elves.
Is that dark elves?
We played this today. Me and Paul. Paul was kicking my butt with these dark elves today, with these sea monsters and everything like that. They're my dwarves being cut to shreds and being killed to a dwarf. So very sad day today.
Look at the wee guy, the dwarf at the bottom right-hand corner. He's sort of lying on his back. He's got a couple of arrows in his shield. Looks like he's taking quite a sore one. Look at his face. And a bit of pain there.
Dark elves. Come on, fight me like a man, he says. Like a dwarf, I should say. But yeah, wonderful game. If you've never played it, mate, honestly, try to get a copy, or go and get a mate who's got a copy and have a game of it. You'll absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'd love to try it out for sure. And speaking of dwarfs as well, we then move into some Warhammer dwarf characters. So we've got a guide by Rick Priestley here. We're talking about Rune Lord, Crag the Grim. And we've got there's Burlock Damonson. He's not the Slayer one, is he? That's somebody else.
No, that's the Slayer King is something totally different. Burlock Damonson is the engineer character, basically, that had very little special rules, and I don't think anybody took him. I actually don't have this model in particular, sadly, so I'll need to get him at some point. But I think he was the most unloved character, I think, of all the characters in the Dwarf Army book.
Yeah, and we see the models painted up on the next page, and it's a good wee model as well. Big metal hand and stuff. We've got Crag the Grim, we've got some miners as well. Do you think the miners thought that they were just going to their work and then they ended up in a battle?
Yeah, with candles still ablaze on top of their little helmets. Yeah.
Because it's funny that they just get their trade name. You don't see a unit like the bakers or the clerks.
Well, they didn't have two-handed pickaxes, but that's probably why. So I think the miners were an opposite choice for being enlisted.
At a glance, it makes them look like archers. When you see the pics there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like to take one of them off the head. And then we dive right back into Warhammer 40k. So I think we're heading into the battle. They used to play a battle in White Dwarf at the end. So we're going to see a battle between Andy Chambers' Blood Angels and somebody's taking charge of the orcs, but I've cut the page out again, so I don't know.
Another bit of artwork, mate, you cut out. That's what it would have been. John Blanche, masterpiece.
I was such a vandal. So what do we see in the artwork then?
It looks like to be Marines and Adeptus. I don't know what these guys are called. Sorry, I'm not so well versed in the sort of deep background of the Astartes lore and that kind of thing. But there's a certain. It wasn't the Inquisition; it was another one. I can't remember what they're called. Adeptus Mechanicus, maybe. I'm not sure. But these sort of they're not even men, I suppose. They're just all these kind of cyborg-looking guys running around, and had all these like servo arms and all kinds of pipes hanging out their chests and mouths and that kind of stuff. But I can't remember what they're called. I'm sorry. But yeah, lots of those. Actually, you can see a Servator in the background there. You got a Marine that's got his looks like a Dark Angel, maybe. He's got his arm blown off and a shoulder pad damaged, and you got like this servo skull flying through the air. So yeah, John was great at doing these big battles like that. The scale and scope of his artwork were just wonderful. I love all these kind of drawings that he did.
Yeah, obviously did as well. That's why I cut them all out the magazine.
Yeah.
Picture of the magazine.
Yeah.
So that's a big old orc horde. There's Gazgul. I had that model. It was a very spiky model. Should have like stabbed my finger on him when I was painting him. The orcs in general were just very spiky in this era. Just loads of spikes everywhere. The battle wagon. I mean, look at the spikes on that. Like,
yeah,
it's like Hellraiser's car.
Yeah, you can see painted right in that, can you? You know, yeah, that's a good point. That, yeah, I mean, those bloody things are really rare and extremely expensive to find nowadays. The orc battle wagons. So
next couple of pages we've got. I used to like these deployment maps. It always gave me ideas of how I might like to lay out a table if I ever had one, or any terrain. Just a bunch of homemade kid stuff, but toilet roll tubes and stuff like that, rocks. Yeah, and then we go into the battle itself. So don't know if they still do this in White Dwarf these days, but you got a sort of play-by-play report on the turns. At the end of the turns, you got the score as it was. So looks like the Blood Angels, they were pretty much trailing the entire game. They're down 6-2, they're down 6-4, and then I think they come back in the very last minute and win the game. So yeah, it looks again, some of these photos. So I've got a photo there of the battle wagon crashes into the rhino. And we've got sort of big cactus-style plants, palm trees. We've got like a ruined church-style building. So, yeah, with 40k, they liked these sort of jungly type planets, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, a lot of the guys now on Facebook are actually making a lot of these kind of, alien-looking vegetation kind of plants and that kind of thing to replicate all these old school tables that you saw in the second edition, which I think is great. The cactus plants being, the most iconic ones with the toothpick, the toothpicks in kind of a, foam round kind of, ball kind of thing. If you buy it or just make it, I think they're great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of guys getting it's the stuff that you buy for like tropical fish tanks, and using that, and it comes up really well.
Yeah.
You know what confuses me about setting up these tables, Josh? It's like you've got Space Marine buildings, and then you've got like an orc village, and they're within like 100 yards of each other. You think, why did you build your towns just directly across from each other? Like you've got a whole galaxy. You could have found a planet, but no wonder you are fighting.
It's almost like overnight they've just built this. They've built this, this outpost and encroached on the enemy territory, and then they woke up in the morning. Hey, look at these guys! They just parked their or they've just built their their factory on our backyard. So let's go and kick some butt and kick them out of here. So yeah, it's funny. To it. I do with Epic Space Marine. You can kind of get away with that because of the scale of the game and But yeah, 40k it looks funny, doesn't it? Yeah.
So there's a load of the wee Gretchen with the huge guns. I think it was Nathan again referred to him before at the Warhammer Orchard podcast. He was talking about the scale of those guns, the Gretchen's guns, that they're still bigger to this day than like the big Space Marine guns. So like those tiny Gretchen were carrying these huge guns, and as far as I know, the damage on them was so minimal as well. So, but they are like the biggest guns that have ever existed, the biggest handheld guns even in the game. So. But they were rubbish. Great to paint though, apart from when you got to maybe your like 40th of them, then you were ready to be done.
Yeah, when you've got like 20 of those guys at 5 points a model, and you're throwing 20 dice, it will do some damage. It will take things out. So yeah, I take Gretchen, as many Gretchen as I can actually in my games if I can, because they're great sort of cannon fodder. And yeah, they can dish out a fair amount of firepower. So
we get to the final score of the battle. Blood Angels 9, Orcs 8. So it was a very close game, but Andy Chambers came out on top there. He had a fine set of mutton chop whiskers in this era. It was Jervis Johnson he was fighting. I think he still works for them, as far as I know.
Jervis Johnson recently retired, or just made himself redundant or whatever. He just left with a very big paycheck, I would imagine. So to go into, I think he was the last of the design studio that I know, apart from a couple of the sculptors. I think Jez Goodman still works there, and a couple of other people there. He left. So probably on to bigger and better things, or just to retire altogether. So who knows?
Aye, fair play to him. That's a lot of service he's put in there. So
yeah, mate.
Yeah. So next page we've got a couple of grand openings again. Glasgow. That's not far from me, so I could take the 25% off tokens, and that'd be a good way to get one of the Chelsea smiles we talked about. If I go into Glasgow and try and spend that, I imagine they'd be telling me where to go. Shrewsbury could go down there as well. So that opens at 9 a.m. Saturday the 30th of October 1993. So getting the old DeLorean and go back to that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, they've got a couple of deals. You could pick up Space Hulk, Space Marine, Deathwing. Buy any 2 red dot items and get a yellow dot item free. So a lot of deals available back then. And then we go on to the famous mail order pages, which we all loved back in the day, when you had to either fill out a postal order or phone up as well, borrow your mum's credit card or just steal it and make an order. And these catalogue pages, I used to just peruse them endlessly, making lists of stuff that I'd never be able to afford. But we've got the Citadel miniatures catalogues. I think were you doing a look through of one of them quite recently, if I remember correctly, Josh?
Oh yeah, that was one of the catalogues I got. From a good buddy of mine in the UK. He got me one of those. So I've still got another 3 or 4 more to collect. But yeah, beautiful catalogues, just as an archive of all those great models. Definitely worth getting if you can find a copy that's still intact. As the binding was not all that great back in those days of Games Workshop books, but if you can find one, grab it, because it's nice to have a look at all those old models. I was just looking here too, Matthew, like this mail order form. I've never filled a mail order form in my life, but I thought it was just funny that they basically trusted you to write down all the codes and the prices, the quantity, and the total price, include the postage and packaging costs and everything. You get to total up yourself. And then, you write a check or whatever and just hope and pray that everything was correct. Like if you stuffed up like the pricing or something like that, how would they fix that up? Like how would they contact to say, hey, mate, sorry, you shortchanged us like £2 or something like that, and you need to rewrite this check or whatever. It would be an absolute bloody nightmare, wouldn't it?
I know, it's funny because you think about now, websites that sell stuff, they talk about like we need to minimise the amount of steps where the customer might just give up with the purchase because, there's just too many hoops or that. But back here, like you're saying, it's like there was so many points where you might just give up. They obviously, at this point, I don't know what their marketing team was like. I mean, they weren't doing too bad at this point, right enough. But I suppose it's just one of the things where they're hoping that you're invested enough to proceed with it. But yeah, imagine you'd just did all the prices, maybe made it up, give yourself a healthy discount. I wonder if they'd just follow through on your order for being brazen enough to do that.
Well, people, back in the day, sending a mail order form from overseas, sending them a fairly hefty check, and then just in the mail, and then hoping and praying that they actually received it, followed through with your order and sent it back, and you actually got it back. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways where all that could have just gone wrong, and you could just never heard back from them. It's amazing now what you think about it.
And I did do a few of these orders. So what would happen? I would get my birthday money. It'd be my birthday. I'd get a few cards, and I'd want a naive child. I'd just want to stick the money in the envelope and send it. My mum was explaining to me. She says you can't just send 40 quid, two £20 notes. You can't just send that. I was like, why not? They'll be honest about it. But she's like, no, but if it gets lost, it's lost. So I had to give her the money. She would write a check, etc. Just looking at some of the orcs here, you could pick up an orc dreadnought for £6.99, and they were doing a sort of little bundle deal here. So the price of this stuff here compared to what it would go for now must be pretty eye-opening. We go into some dwarfs here. Again, we've seen a few of these miniatures so far in this edition. We've got more dwarfs. I've actually taken a felt tip pen, so we've got a page. I think these are Marauder miniatures rather than Citadel miniatures we've got here, like Troll Slayers, Thunderers.
Yep, Marauder miniatures.
So, and I've went and coloured all of these dwarfs in with felt tip pen. So I've
nice.
Sort of painted them, if you like. I mean, I think is that a colour page for you? Maybe I'm talking about ours.
No, they're not coloured. No, they're all black and white. So you would have coloured it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did colour them all in then.
Yeah.
So there you go. Very bored child.
Well, gave a lot of good painting practice, that's for sure.
Yeah, aye. Pity it didn't bear any fruit when you look at some of my stuff these days. Space Marines, again, in these days you've seen models that they were metal, but they had plastic parts as well, which was a funny combination. Some of these old Space Marines too, but like the beaks. The Mark II and Mark III armour, is that what that means?
Yep. Mark II Crusader armour, Mark III Iron armour. So
I had a couple of these Space Marines. Bought a couple of those. I just used to pick up stuff I liked. I wasn't necessarily collecting armies or that. It was more just whatever took my fancy when I had some money, which was rare. Terminators, we've got orcs. Again, the orcs for this area, they're great, aren't they?
Beautiful. Yeah, I love them.
Orc bosses, so there's Gazgul, and he comes with a wee standard bearer. I had him too. So you got a few of these in your collection to this day, Josh?
I do. Well, recently I did a wonderful trade of painting for a massive second edition orc army with a guy, a good mate of mine in the US. So I managed to pick up quite a lot of miniatures out of that. So I was very, very happy, and I've painted them. So even better, I'm actually painted them and playing with them. So it's even nicer. So I can enjoy them now.
Yeah, you'll need to send me a couple of links if you've got any photos of them, and I could stick them in the episode show notes, and the listener could get a wee look.
Yep, no problem at all.
Last couple of pages, we've got more space orcs. We've got the Snotlings. They've always been a favourite of mine. So we've got Snotling selling squigs, Snotling with serving platter, Snotling with spanner, Snotling with cutters, Snotling with stick bomb and ammo box, Snotling with plans. I'd love to see what were on those plans. Snotling with shell and Snotling with pennant. So who doesn't love the Snotlings?
Oh, I love them. Yeah, I was actually proxying some of these guys for what were they called again? The Pink Horrors of Tzinch, because I don't have any of those. And in the game I had to summon those through a psychic power, and I didn't have any. I thought, I'll just use some of these little Snotlings or Gretchen for these, And they're some of the best models. I love that one with the stick bomb and ammo box. I think that's one of the best ones I ever made. Yeah, that's just excellent.
Yeah, it's probably the size perspective. It's probably like a jewellery box or something that he's holding.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of ammo he would have got in there. But
Squig ammo, yeah.
I like on these mech boys, the guy with the flamethrower, it actually looks like he's holding a Hoover, a vacuum cleaner, orc cleaner. We've got a guy with a bone saw, pincers and hair squig. The hair squigs were things, weren't they? The orcs wore like squigs with hair, you could get an orc with a hair squig.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Road Trader books really gave a lot of detail to a lot of the background to the orcs. The 3 books they released for those, so they contain all that kind of information. I think Nathan touched on that in a really good episode of his podcast at the
He did, yeah. War Games. That's where I heard of it.
Yeah. So you check it out, and that was really interesting.
And that brings us, we've got a Norse warship, another ad for 40k, and that brings us to the end of the book. Nice wee picture of Space Wolves fighting the Elder on the back there, and and that's timely because I've got to take my wee girl for a drive in the car and try and stop her being a shit today because she's cried all day, and my wife's at her wit's end. That was brilliant, Josh.
Yeah, but thank you very much again for having me on your podcast, mate. I really enjoyed the episodes you've released so far, so please keep up the great work, and long may it continue, mate.
I'm really grateful to have you on, Josh. Just before we get wrapped up, where are some of the links that the listener could catch up with your work?
Well, they can catch me on my YouTube channel where I post up pretty much all my games that I play, usually weekly or fortnightly, playing a lot of the 90s games like Warhammer 40k 2nd edition, Warhammer Fantasy Battles 5th edition. So that's the Crown of Command. I think this is Crown of Command podcast on YouTube. You just search that up, you'll find it. And you can always search for the Crown of Command podcast on your podcasting application of choice or platform, and you'll find me there. And you can stay in tune with all our sort of weekly or fortnightly interviews we have with people in our community.
Thanks very much for listening to this episode of the Tabletop Miniature Hobby Podcast. For show notes, subscribe links, and info about how to appear as a guest on a future episode, go to bedroombattlefields.com/podcast.